Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, reacting to the Toronto Raptors 118-133 loss to the Denver Nuggets. Ryker, this is the Raptors' third straight loss, tying our longest losing streak for the season. Is it time to panic in Raptors land after this loss to the Denver Nuggets?
Is it time to tank, Ben? Are we throwing in the white towel?
Time to tank?
No, listen.
Definitely not tank, but should Raptors fans be worried right now, Ryker?
We shouldn't be worried. We are the third most injured team in the NBA this season, and we still are. I don't know what our record is now in terms of league standings. Are we still holding on to the second spot in the East, Ben?
We're holding on to that second seed, right?
It's looking like,
Still
the Celtics
on.
have been
I
on
believe we're a game above Boston.
What's that?
We're a game ahead of Boston, thankfully to James Harden's
Heroics?
special moment in that game. Russell Westbrook's big points. They ended up pulling out a win against the Celtics, which really helped us.
There were some suspicious stains on the trousers or on the shorts of James Harden, and we're not going to go pointing any fingers or making any accusations, but we'll leave it there, and you can make your own decision.
We'll leave it there.
Ben, this is my thoughts. You mentioned James Harden. The Raptors, they had to go out and play a Houston Rockets-style small ball tonight against arguably one of the best centers in the league. He's also pretty underrated at times, but we're virtually identical in record, it seems, with the Denver Nuggets throughout the season. They're looking to contend in the West. We're looking to contend in the East, and it's challenging when they're a much larger team. But then there were some other things that happened this game, Ben, that maybe we shouldn't be too keen on. I don't know. What are your thoughts on the Raptors right now?
Well, rebounding was definitely the biggest issue, in my opinion, in this one. Rondae Hollis-Jefferson. Nikola Jokic is an absolute beast. Watching him play, he uses his size, he uses his remarkable passing ability. The Raptors had to throw a double on him every time he had the ball, or else he just bully whoever was guarding him straight to the rim, whether it was Boucher, Rondae, Siakam, or two other guys. So it was a tough place for the Raptors to be in, not having Marc Gasol or Serge Ibaka. But with that said, the Raptors held their own in terms of scoring in this one without big plays from Pascal Siakam or Kyle Lowry, or big shooting nights. Well, that's a better way of putting it. But the defense is where it really killed the Toronto Raptors tonight. It was just a bucket contest for both teams, and fortunately we had guys step up like OG and Norm, and obviously I'm going to be raving about two of those guys, as they're two guys I've been on an island on supporting nonstop for the past 3-4 years, and it was nice to see both of them have a solid games tonight. But the defense really hurt the Raptors, especially on the interior, whether it was defensive rebounding or just guys like Jamal Murray, Will Barton getting in there and not having to face a 7-footer to shoot over, right? So it was tough for the Raptors defense, but this game was definitely winnable if we hit the shots that Siakam and Lowry maybe not have been hitting consistently over the last week or so, but have been hitting consistently over the course of the season and should be hitting if we want any chance to make a playoff push this year.
Would it be winnable, though, Ben? Because is a game where a team puts up 133 points against you, is that a winnable game? Is it the best defense is a good offense analogy that we're going to use here? If they made more of their shots, then Denver would have scored less? Or are you saying that it's winnable that the Raptors could have scored more than 133 points in this contest?
Well, Ryker, it wasn't until the last really 2 minutes of this game become out of reach. Right? It wasn't. The Raptors had about within 7 or 8 with, I feel like, 2 minutes to go. They were making runs, and then unfortunately the Nuggets hit a couple late threes. The Raptors couldn't get the necessary stops. So I definitely think it was winnable, despite the fact it's a bit jarring to say, hey, we could have outscored a team that scored 133 points. But Siakam left a lot to be desired tonight on the table. 6 of 21 shooting, despite scoring 16 points. Had 4 turnovers, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. 2 steals, so not a horrible box score, but the efficiency was a tough look for him tonight. The threes weren't going in, and we started off this podcast and we probably titled it, should Raptors fans be worried? And this has not been an encouraging stretch of basketball for Pascal Siakam. I think he's going to bounce out of it, but we really need to see him perform well, like he did sort of midway through the season against the top tier teams in the league, Ryker.
Yeah, he definitely does, because it was a confidence issue all game. And the broadcasters were mentioning it. You could see it in his morale, and it was affecting his defense too, because I thought that he should have been the next guy up, really. Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, we know how much heart he plays with, but Pascal Siakam, I think, should be the next best defender when Serge Ibaka is out. And I mean as like our anchor in the middle, right? Trying to contest shots and be sort of the bigger guy. And I know he works a lot of switches and stuff, and he plays outside or defends the perimeter, but I noticed this game that his misses on offense was also making him disengaged on the defensive end. And that's certainly not going to fly when you're looking to him to be the number one option on a team, yet you can't let a few misses get you down, right? And we saw that in the game against the Bucks too with Serge Ibaka. He was missing shots and then he was hesitant. And it's tough because everybody's, all these players, they're still human and they're going to miss shots. But I agree. If we want to make a push in the playoffs, even if he has an inconsistent night or a night off, he needs to have still consistency in his mentality and his willingness to take shots and to still defend, even if it's not working for him on the offensive end.
Most definitely. And you want him to improve his defense. You want him to be able to rotate over a second quicker and get those block shots. But his defense regressed tonight, as you brought up. He wasn't, and it wasn't that he wasn't just guarding his man. He was letting offensive rebounds happen over smaller guys, not the Plumlees or the Jokic's that he may have been switched on. There's times Craig came down the lane that Barton, all these guys were in the paint and they were just getting rebounds over Siakam, and this was a big thing in the Charlotte Hornets game as well. So you want Siakam to obviously take over and stuff, but when the shots are going in, you don't want him to stop doing the things that keep him on the court in terms of a defensive talent, the things that really earned him minutes before he was the star he's grown into. So definitely things to watch for Pascal Siakam. Kyle Lowry, he did a lot of positive Kyle Lowry things tonight. 17 points, 8 assists, 5 rebounds. The threes just unfortunately were not going in. 2 of 10 from the 3-point line, 4 of 14 from the field. But Kyle Lowry's shooting has been up and down over the course of his career. It feels like he's in a little bit of a slump right now, but I'm more worried about Siakam maintaining that consistency as a star than I am Kyle Lowry, Riker. Would you share that sentiment, or is that a little bit?
Well, definitely, because Siakam's not a veteran. You're never as worried about veterans. Yeah. The one thing that I will say about Kyle Lowry is that we had this comment last season, is that if he's in a slump, he usually tends to take more threes, and once he starts to get out of it, he tends to be more assertive in the lane. And it seems to be we're in the same cycle now. 10 threes is unnecessary, right? Especially from Kyle Lowry, who, despite being an undersized guard a lot of the times, he still has so much strength, right, and physicality that he can get his way inside and make good contact layups. So that's the one thing that I'll say about Kyle Lowry. And but I do agree. It's concerning, and especially a loss against the Hornets. That's the reason that we're really having this talk right now, this debate about are the Raptors actually kind of going in the wrong direction, or do they need to settle themselves in and re-engage? Because it'd be one thing if they just lost the game against Denver, whatever, they're a good Western Conference opponent, they're a really strong team, we did have injuries, it was oversized, but we are on a losing stretch that includes a loss against one of the worst teams in the NBA, and that's unexcusable. So we do need to start looking at what needs to be adjusted.
Yeah, that loss against the Hornets was definitely a tough thing to look back to. Fortunately, I was in a place where I missed the game due to school and all that. So it's been a tough stretch of Raptors basketball, but losing the Bucks and the Nuggets, it's fine, especially with the injuries we've had. But the fact that it's snowballing is really unfortunate now. I think this game coming up against the Suns will be very telling in seeing where this Raptors season is kind of what direction it's going to go into. Will we step up as we inch closer to the playoffs, or will we sort of regress into a team like the Indiana Pacers in 2016 or 2015?
I want to ask you one question.
Last season with Roy Hibbert.
I want to ask you, the old Roy Hibbert days. I want to ask you a question, Ben, before we swing into the segments. Matt Thomas, why did he only play 5 minutes this evening? He, he only took 1 shot attempt, no turnovers. He was only a -2, but only 5 minutes, right? Is that are we short-sighting him here? Should we give him more run?
This honestly could be a podcast in itself. The Patrick McCaw, Matt Thomas debate. I think there's a lot to be said on that. I think Matt Thomas definitely deserves some more run in terms of when he goes out there, he does what he needs to do. He plays solid defense. He spaces the floor. Obviously wasn't able to get many looks in the 6 minutes he played tonight, but I'm definitely to not put too much make too much of an argument. I'm of the belief Matt Thomas deserves more minutes. Nick Nurse came out and even said that Patrick McCaw, he still believes Patrick McCaw is in their top 8 in terms of rotation players, but hasn't been performing to that level currently, but he kind of blamed that due to injuries and illness, so it's definitely going to be interesting. I think we should make a whole video on that. But Riker, before we swing into the segments, it's been a pretty negative podcast so far. We alluded to some of the positives that kind of came out of this game, and the big one, my guy, OG Anunoby, 32 points tonight, Riker. 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 7 steals, tying the season high for any player across the league. He was just on an absolute tear tonight. The handle looked great. The 3 looked great. This is what I've been saying about OG Anunoby. When he's confident with his dribble, confident with his jump shot, looks comfortable on the floor, he has all the intangibles to be a really strong asset, strong 3-and-D player on the wing. He always brings the D, but to be a positive offensive threat like that, he was just an absolute monster tonight, Riker.
Ben, you summed it up. The only thing I'll add is he was down in the post calling for the ball.
Yeah.
And we don't see
confident.
We don't see OG asserting himself that much. We don't rarely see him demanding the ball. And if we can start to see him actually asking for it, actually looking to take advantage of mismatches, then we will be realizing the potential of this player that you have been really high on for so long.
I'm telling you. It might be a hot take. I've brought up this hot take before. I've been flamed for it before. But OG Anunoby will be an all-star in the NBA. I am of the belief of that. And that might be my most controversial take I've had on the podcast. But I'm still of the belief that I just think... Remember we were watching that game and... live. We don't get to watch many Raptors games live, but OG looks like the biggest guy on the court. His calves, his physicality, he has all the intangibles, the skills are there. Once it gets all put together, he shows this sort of confidence night in, night out. I just don't see how this guy can be stopped by any team.
Huh. Well, he's got a bit of a ways to go before he is unstoppable, but...
Unstoppable, Riker. Unstoppable.
Gotta win some games first, Ben.
Hey, no, it's all good. And my other guy, the guy living on Norm Island, 24 points, 6 assists. A lot of people have flooded into Norm Island this season, and for good reason. He's been remarkable. Coming off of injury, his 3-point shot wasn't really going in tonight, but 9 of 17 from the field, attacked the rim with force. It was just it's really nice to have Norman Powell back in the lineup. That's the only real way to put it.
For sure, man. For sure. He has been missed, but now we need our bigs back as well.
We need our bigs. We need Fred. We just want the squad together for a stretch of time. So, basketball gods, can you please let that happen? That'd be great. But, Riker, we're going to swing into the segments tonight. The spicy P lay of the day. It's going to, in the fourth quarter, I believe, there was an inbound pass thrown. The Nuggets threw a long rainbow inbound pass. Usually, a lot of teams throw that when their plays don't really work. And Siakam said, no, I'm gonna go and get this one. Jumped real high. I think he stole out of Mason Plumlee's hands. Tipped it. OG ended up saving it from going out of bounds through sort of a hook pass to Siakam for a fast break slam. That was a nice play to be had. I know Norm also had sort of a windmill layup. There, for a negative game, for a loss, there was some highlight plays, some positives to take out of this.
Yeah, definitely, Ben. Definitely. But not all plays can be the spicy Pele. So make you say, oh, geez. Ben, what do you have for us tonight?
The OGs play the day. How the thing about this game that made me say OGs, and you might have a better one, Riker, but the Raptors, I just felt like the Raptors were going to go on a run at some point. Usually when they keep games close, and it was the same feeling in the Charlotte one, they never really got it going, but they never really took that leap, that plunge, that strike to take the lead on the Denver Nuggets down the stretch of this one like I thought they would. I thought that Siakam, one of these guys, would just take over the game down the stretch, but unfortunately it didn't happen, and they kind of made a push, like a Lowry-esque push in the Charlotte Hornets game from the highlights. He just went insane in the end of the fourth quarter, and then, it just didn't happen tonight for the Toronto Raptors. Made me say a depressed, sad OGs after this game was sort of lost.
I'd be curious to see points in clutch minutes. But not just clutch minutes, but when the Raptors are down in games, because I feel like a lot of those points actually come from Serge Ibaka and Fred VanVleet.
God.
Would you agree?
That's a fair point. I think Lowry's had the bigger moments, especially that Dallas game. the one obviously against the Hornets. I think Lowry takes a lot of the big shots and gets a lot of those points. But I think in terms of consistency down the stretch, I think it's hard to argue that Fred VanVleet and Serge Ibaka have been our most consistent players from day one of the season, especially down the stretch. And they're vets too.
Yep, no, I'd agree. Just no G's on the game. It's a game of runs, and you expect the Raptors to pull one out, but that's it. And the only DeMar Carroll Gold Star award, I say with a sigh. We mentioned them. Ben, maybe you have somebody else, but it's got to go to Pascal and Kyle Lowry. You know, when most of our starting lineup is out, you know, we got to have those our main guys make shots and not be 28% from the field. And I get it. The Nuggets are a little bit bigger, but that's no excuse.
Yep. I'm also going to throw one, and I know we've been pretty positive on them, but Raptors fans have kind of, as a whole, have been pretty down on Patrick McCaw this season, especially where Nick Nurse has objectively given him the longest leash on the team. And he had 7 points tonight, which is higher than his usual point total, but I don't know. He just really doesn't have that sort of takeover mindset. We've seen more from him in the first couple months of the season. I know his injuries and the sickness and all that has sort of occurred, but I want to see Patrick McCaw not just pass it up immediately whenever he catches the ball, and then if he has an open three, not have to pass it, and the player have to pass it back to him for him to inevitably shoot that three. I'd like to see more confidence, more assertiveness from Patrick McCaw, because he plays a lot better when he has that sort of mindset. He has all the skills to be a top-tier role-playing wing off the bench, you know, one of those guys that can have a positive impact. As said, the Raptors have built a team of guys with a lot of intangibles, guys that can dribble, shoot, and pass. Those are three skills that you want to have to be on the court to get minutes and obviously defend as well. I think Patrick McCaw has all those sorts of things, but sometimes he just gets lost. A lot of times he gets lost in the shuffle, and if he's going to be playing over Matt Thomas, man, he needs to really assert that he has those skills and use them, not just be a guy that's sort of a pylon out there on offense.
Oh yeah, you know, Matt Thomas is not going out there to pass on an open 3-point opportunity. So yep. Patrick McCaw he's got to have that same mentality.
Most definitely. But you guys are the best for making this far. Check out the Twitter, the Instagram, all that cool stuff. The Raptors, I'm sure they'll bounce back. They're playing the Phoenix Suns now, the coming games. I think it's on Tuesday. So hopefully we get the win down there. Have a lighter schedule over the next few months, so hopefully that will allow Siakam, Lowry, all these guys to get their confidence back, get a few guys back reinserted into the lineup, get a few centers playing, and then everything will be smooth sailing, hopefully. Hopefully we don't have a 2015 Indiana Pacers-esque season where it all falls apart after the All-Star break, but hopefully not.
Oh, gosh. What a tone to leave us off on, Ben.
Sad times, some 2016 Wizards that maybe, I don't know. We'll try to keep things positive. So, Riker, any last words?
That's it for me, Ben. Cheers.